Dragon Riders, Kaze no Kaeru, by Night Dragon 0. Night Slice's perspective. Are you sure about this? Hazuki asked for the 5th time. Let me assure you, if you weren't, I would have quit way ahead. But it's stealing! Stealing a few files from the police to take out bad guys. I'd say it's a good trade-off. The small settlement near the base of Mount Silver simply consisted of Pokemon Center, shops, lodgings, and a police post. Beyond that, all was the unexplored wilderness of the vast mountain, surrounded by forests and rivers. We come here after our encounters at the Hidden Temple to plan what to do next. The town seemed isolated enough for us to work with. Although Hazuki had earlier offered to bait Team Rocket by using herself, I decided against it after realizing we had another enemy in the form of Silph. However, it gave me an idea that I could use. Team Rocket and Silph didn't like each other, as we'd seen so far. While Team Rocket was a criminal group, Silph was supposedly just a Pokemon pharmaceutical company on the outside. And if Team Rocket had either attacked or raided some of Silph's facilities, the police would probably have it recorded as robberies and such. What I knew was that Team Rocket usually took great risks only with a valid reason, so I just needed to check up on the recent Team Rocket activity and see if any Silph facilities had been attacked lately. Hence, us sneaking into the police post in the middle of the night. Being as far out as this, the station wasn't fully staffed and mostly relied on automated security alarms. Nothing a ninja-trained Scyther couldn't get through, especially after Hazuki had cut several wires on the main circuit board. We walked as silently as possible and entered a room marked Records. We'll have to make this quick, I said, shifting to human form. It would be easier for me to browse through the file cabinets with hands instead of bladed claws. Hazuki nodded and started searching the other side of the room. I was pulling out a folder when my ears picked up the sudden footsteps coming from outside the door. I caught sight of another door leading out of the room and jumped to the most obvious response. "Back door, quick!" I whispered hastily, dashing for the smaller door, which connected to an adjacent locker room. However, I'd forgotten Hazuki didn't exactly have my reflexes, and she froze in panic. Thinking fast, I gestured towards a desk near her. Hazuki dove under it and curled up just as the door opened. "Think it should be here?" a familiar-sounding voice asked. "Yes, and keep it down, Aaron, or we'll get caught." I peeked through a crack from behind the door I was hiding behind. Now, haven't seen those two for a while, I thought. Aaron and Scarlet. While not two particularly bright or high-ranking Rockets, Chris's old Team Rocket rivals had caused us quite a few problems in the past. "You search over there, and I'll take this part," Scarlet decided. "Okay." The pair spread out and begun rummaging through the file cabinets, just as Hazuki and I had been doing earlier. I could only remain silent and watch, wondering what they were after. I cringed, realizing Aaron was getting nearer to Hazuki's hiding place. My mind raced on whether to attack or remain hidden. Aaron was standing right over the desk Hazuki was hiding under. As he began to crouch down, I made the decision to move. Suddenly, another person stepped into the room. He dressed in a night watchman's uniform and carried a flashlight, which he shone into the room. "Team Rocket!" he gasped, noticing Aaron and Scarlet's uniforms. "No! They must be after the blue card!" "He must be an undercover Silph agent," Aaron muttered. "Yeah," Scarlet nodded, then to the Silph soldier. "And sure as hell we want that key card, so don't try anything funny. Requesting back—" That was as far as the soldier got on his radio, before Aaron's Golbat snatched it out of his hands. "Not so tough now, are you?" Scarlet taunted. "Damn Rockets! Die!" The Silph soldier let out a Croconaw. "Water gun! Nidorino, Horn Attack!" Scarlet sent out her Pokemon. "Ghastly, Confuse Ray!" Aaron too released his second Pokemon. The Confuse Ray hit the Croconaw first, stunning it and making it wobbly and unsteady. Nidorino then barged into the water Pokemon, sending it spinning around. Its water gun went off course, right into the table Hazuki was under. "Ah!" Hazuki cried, as the table broke into pieces, sending her rolling over. There was a moment of silence as everyone stared at the new intruder. "It's the Chimera!" the Silph soldier realized. "The Chimera?" Aaron gasped. "Ah!" Hazuki kicked the Rocket in the shin, causing him to stumble in pain. "Hazuki!" I charged onto the scene. The Silph soldier whipped out a gun and fired, causing everyone else to drop to the ground. He hadn't been intending to hit us, but rather distract us as he tossed a grenade. It exploded into a foul-smelling gas that caused everyone to start coughing. The soldier swiftly snapped on a gas mask and dashed towards Hazuki. He knocked the stun girl out with a punch to her stomach. "Hazuki! No!" I coughed. The Silph agent quickly recalled his Croconaw, hoisted Hazuki over his shoulder, and sprinted for the window. The tracker! Quick! Scarlet ordered, coughing. Yeah! Aaron fired something from a rectangular box in his hand. I saw a brief glint of metal as it hit the fleeing Silph agent. I got it! Aaron cried as the Silph soldier fled. We've got his signal! Stuffing the folder I was holding under my arm, I held my breath and rammed Aaron in the chest. Thanks! I called, catching his device and leaping out the window. I shifted into Scyther form as I did, and scanned the area outside for signs of Hazuki. It was just in time to see a car speeding off. Fuck! I cursed furiously, slamming my claws to the ground. Who's there? A female voice demanded from inside the police station. Officer Jenny and several policemen barged into the room, only to see the 2 rockets and their Pokemon. Freeze, Rockets! You're under arrest! Wait! We didn't do anything! Scarlet abruptly began laughing. She's right! we were just... Aaron burst out. Save it! Jenny growled. You have the right to... remain... What's going on? It's laughing gas! Another officer realized. The Rocket's Pokemon had burst out laughing as well. Doesn't matter! Take him in! Leaving Aaron and Scarlet in the hands of the police, I grabbed what I'd taken in my mouth and flew into the forest. Hazuki, I sighed, depressed. I'd lost her and Kyle, too, whose Pokeball she'd been carrying, just like I'd lost Chris. But at least I had a chance. I switched back to human form and got out Luminar to provide some lighting. The Jolteon could tell by the grim expression on my face that something was wrong, and decided not to say anything. As I shifted the file I'd been holding onto, a bunch of papers slipped out. Together with it was a blue-colored card. I stared in disbelief, recalling the conversation between my enemies from earlier. I glanced from the blue card to the stolen tracking device and back again. A keycard? I wondered. An undercover Silph agent whom they were attempting to pass this keycard to. I stared at the screen of the palm-sized tracker and nodded in resolution. The location of my target was blinking. My course of action was clear. Let's move! Sorge's perspective. I turned towards the Mewtwo in front of us. Not the actual Mewtwo, but one transformed from a human. Mewtwo itself was already a genetically engineered Pokemon, and that left Cindrea as far away from being natural as one could possibly be. I still saw in my mind how she'd single-handedly torn the rocket base down, leaving nothing but ashes and twisted bits of metal and concrete. Giovanni had, of course, fled before the base went up in flames, disappearing once again into the shadows. Alagard and Scantrix were further down the slope, going through data on a laptop they'd taken from the rocket base. We decided to take Cindrea out for a bit and let her enjoy the outdoors after being confined to a lab for so long. Now she stood on the edge of a cliff, silently glancing up at the moon. I couldn't imagine what must have been going through the former human's mind at the moment. Thank you for helping me, Cindrea said, so suddenly that I started. Huh? Oh, yes, don't worry about it. I caught my composure. I could feel there was something different about you the first time we fought, she told me, especially that last attack. Yes, when we saw into each other's minds, I nodded. That was how I learned your name and that you existed, but I didn't recall much until recently. Whatever it is, I'm still grateful, and will always be, the Mewtwo spoke, before going back to gazing at the moon. Sorja, take a look at this, Scantrix called me over. I gave Cindrea a quick glance to make sure she was okay, then flew over to the Skarmory side. Here's some interesting info Team Rocket's spies got from Silph, he said, pointing the edge of his wing at the screen. The plan for creating a virus. And an actual one, mind you, Alagard added in. What kind? I asked. That's the thing the Rockets don't know, Alagard explained. But Silph has plans to design a new virus. Even if it's just the planning stages, it could be potentially dangerous knowing them, I nodded. As such, we need to get into one of Silph's bases and find out, Alagard said. And we found an ideal one near the Lake of Rage. Firestorm's perspective. I groaned, feeling my consciousness finally returning. Storm, can you hear me? Storm! Mirage? What? I found myself tied to a chair, in the middle of a dark room illuminated only by the Ponyta's flames. She too was tied up like a parcel and strapped down beside me. There was barely enough space in the muzzle for her to open her mouth and talk. Sorry, we got caught, she muttered. I figured, I groaned, still very weak. My muscles were badly cramped too. The Rockets? No, someone else, the Ponyta said. They took the girls and us here in a van, but Dracia escaped. I nodded. But there was something else. I was unconscious for most of the trip, but I remember waking up and seeing them sticking a bunch of needles into you. They were drawing blood, I think. My blood? What would they want that for? I wondered aloud. And who's the they, for that matter, anyway?
Really, my dear Chimera, I thought you'd know better by now.
I realized there was another person in the room. He was a Japanese man with his long black hair tied back in a samurai-style ponytail. He was dressed in a black business suit with matching tie and long trousers.
Jubei Gantotsuku,
He introduced.
Commander of Silph's new special forces, and I welcome you to our base behind the Lake of Rage. It also doubles as an equipment-producing factory and a power plant.
A military commander in suit? I muttered.
Well, there sadly are formal occasions that come with the job,
Jubei laughed.
like the one right now.
The Silph commander snapped his fingers and a door opened. A trio of soldiers in green walked in and roughly dragged Mirage and myself out the door.
You're about to meet a rather higher-up person on Silph's ladder,
Jubei laughed. I could almost swear I heard him whisper.
but not for much longer.